Home prices in Kansas City have been absolutely exploding over the last several years, and that's especially true of Johnson County, one of the most popular in the entire country. However, there are still some really affordable pockets of Johnson County, and in this video, we're breaking down one of those pockets that has locally owned businesses lining the main roads. It's centrally located close to pretty much everywhere you would want to go, and you can find home prices that are over 6 figures below the average for the entire county. In this video, we're breaking down everything you need to know about moving to, buying a home in, or living in Mission, Kansas. And if you stick around till the end of this video, we'll also discuss a $270 million investment that's been a gigantic eyesore for over 15 years now. Let's get started. Now, in Kansas City, it's no small secret that a large source of demand from housing comes from first-time home buyers, right? People who want to live in a home for the foreseeable future without having to worry about signing a lease every 12 months or their rent getting jacked up year over year over year. And over the last 2 decades, maybe in the early 2010s and the early 2000s, the prime destination for that group of homebuyers would have been Prairie Village. But over that time, up until right now, the home prices have just absolutely skyrocketed, right? We're seeing a lot of high-end remodels, we're seeing a lot of homes be torn down and built back up in their place, and the starting price for a lot of those homes is well above $400,000. It really starts around $600,000. And if you want a new construction home, you're gonna be at least in the lower 900s or even crossing 7 figures. And as a result of that, a lot of first-time home buyers have just been pushed a little farther north. So on the map, you can see Mission, Kansas is just to the west of Roland Park. Full link to the Roland Park video down below, but go ahead and keep watching because we'll flesh out a couple of the big differences between Mission and Roland Park here in a moment. So you've got Mission just to the west, you've got Prairie Village just to the southeast, you've got Fairway, and then to the east, you've got Westwood. Now, those are all cities that have more expensive home prices, which creates a massive opportunity specifically for Mission, Kansas. So that's the one large advantage. Number 2 is that it's kind of walkable and it's very convenient because you've got shops up and down Johnson Drive. Now, Prairie Village, part of the reason it's so popular, you've got the Village and Corinth shops, and while they offer a distinct feel from the Johnson Drive shops, the same idea of the convenience, being able to drive about 5 or 10 minutes away, or maybe even walk the dog and the kids around the corner to go out to eat at night, it's a huge advantage to have so close to you. And of all of those shops, one in particular, according to the Shawnee Mission Post, has one of the best burgers in the entire county. So if you're ever in the area, Snack Shack, it's very popular, it's always packed, and it's a great place to go. But you've got shops like that all the way up and down, locally owned businesses, not super large chain stores for the most part. Now, the third big advantage is that you're centrally located, right? The big appeal of a Fairway, Westwood, or Prairie Village is that you're very close to the good areas of Johnson County, while at the same time, getting over to the Missouri side, going to the plaza, downtown Kansas City, getting on the highways is still very accessible. And I'd even say it's a little bit easier living in a Roland Park or a Mission, Kansas, where you've got the highways even closer to you, but not too close. Now, while there's a big difference in the feel of the homes in the entire area once you go north of Shawnee Mission Parkway, there is one little neighborhood in Mission, Kansas that mimics the feel of Prairie Village, and that would be Mill Haven. So as you can see on the map, it butts up right next to Overland Park and Prairie Village, and that's where you'll see some more expensive homes like this one and this one. Now, the reason we spend a lot of time talking about the different feel and the different parts of this city is because that's oftentimes what matters the most to a lot of my clients. And if you're in the market for a home, whether you're relocating from outside of the Kansas City area or you're making a local move in Johnson County, we would love to help and make sure you get the part of this city that has the most unique feel, the one that's the most special and fits all of your priorities. So if you think we make a good fit personality-wise, make sure to send us a message or give us a phone call. All of my contact info is down below. We can have a conversation and make sure we're setting you up for success so that we can really find that little niche area no matter how big the city you're looking in is. Now, part number 2 is all about the school districts, and as you can see on the map, you're falling in the Shawnee Mission School District. It's one of the best in the entire Johnson County area, the Kansas City Metro, and even the state of Kansas. So The elephant in the room is obviously the ratings. We would love to see an A and A+, but unfortunately a lot of these ratings tend to lag behind, and some of the things that are heavily weighted in the ratings are kind of arbitrary. So I'd really encourage you, before kind of wiping away the possibility of Mission or Roland Park or that specific part of the school district, make sure to reach out to the administrators for more information about the specific programs there, because they're going to offer you a lot more insight than the face value, than judging a book by its cover. Now, the really big benefit here is that all of those schools are within about 10 minutes of anywhere you would live in Mission, Kansas. So that makes it really easy once the kids are growing up. If you got kids in elementary school and middle school at the same time, it makes it pretty easy and simple to get them to those respective schools all in one swoop. Part number 3 is all about the cost of living, and we've already kind of touched on this, but here's a chart to give you even more context. And you can see that Mission is one of the most affordable places you can live in Johnson County. It's not quite shaded as dark as a Prairie Village or even an Overland Park or even a Shawnee, and you can see it's very similar to Roland Park. However, I'd say that living in Mission is a little bit more affordable, just slightly, than living in Roland Park. Now, here's a chart that'll break down the line-by-line items that make up the entire cost of living. And as you can see, Mission is about 5 points below the average, the baseline for the entire country, and that's despite being smack dab in the most lucrative corner of one of the best counties in the entire country. Now, you can also see you've got some pretty affordable home prices even compared to the rest of the United States, which leads us to the next part of the video, the home prices. Here's the typical home value in Mission, Kansas. It's just below $300,000 for now. You can see the county average in Johnson County is about $412,000. So you've just saved 6 figures right off the bat. Now, all of that drives up the demand, the value of the area, because who doesn't want to save a lot of money but still get to partake in one of the best counties in the country? As a result, these homes typically sell in about 4 days or less, which means most of them don't even survive the weekend after hitting the market. I can give you one concrete example. This is one of my listings, which is on Lamar. Happened to be a half acre, updated throughout. The sellers did a phenomenal job getting this ready for the market. We have it listed on June 15th, which was a Thursday, and we went under contract with several offers June 17th. And over those 2 days, we had about 42 showings, which was absolutely crazy. We ended up getting so much traffic that we had to start canceling showings. And not only did we list at $324 and get that many showings, but we got an offer over the asking price at around $376,000, which is just mind-boggling. Now, it's not going to happen for every home in the area, but there's so much demand for these homes that you can almost certainly expect them to go above the ask price. And of course, that's absolutely something that we can help you with, is getting these homes at a reasonable price without having to pay that much. So go ahead and reach out and we can work some magic and make sure that happens for you. Now, the last 2 parts of the video, we'll discuss all of the developments in Mission, Kansas, because there are quite a few of them, and there's one that's quite a saga. And then we'll also discuss the differences between Mission and Roland Park. So first up, the developments. There have been several apartment buildings that have been proposed, developed, etc. over the last several years, and it all kind of started with a locale. It's smack dab in the middle of Johnson Drive, which means you've got a lot of walkability. They're a luxury apartment, so you've got all kinds of amenities inside, and the rents are like $1,500 to $2,000, which seems quite expensive. It's basically as much as my mortgage payment, but they've got an occupancy rate of about 97%, which means only a few units are actually vacant, meaning there's a ton of demand for the area. Now, that caused a follow-on effect where the old Mission bowling alley used to be. It burnt down in a fire, and since then, plans have been drawn up, proposed to the city, approved, and they've started construction on another set of luxury apartments. So they'll have about 165 different units, all the amenities, probably very comparable rents to the locale, and they'll also dedicate about 20% of those units towards affordable housing. Now, the last and final apartment development project that hasn't quite broken ground yet, but I'm aware of, is at 58 Knoll. So again, you're right around the corner from Johnson Drive. They're going to have about 70 to 80 different units there. They will be luxury apartments. If you're spotting a trend here, the locale certainly set it off, meaning they've got the amenities inside, probably very comparable rents to the other two, and this one they haven't quite broken ground on yet. Now for the Gateway project. This is the $270 million eyesore that's been plaguing the city basically as long as I've been alive. So it all started back in 2006. There was an older shopping mall that was smack dab in the middle of that lot, and it was demoed. So 2006. Now, I grew up in Fairway and Prairie Village, and we would always go out to eat on some of the restaurants in Johnson Drive. So we'd always drive past, and I very clearly remember my dad telling me that that would be sitting vacant long after I could even drive, which at the time was crazy. That was such a long time. And now we're well past that. It's still sitting vacant, and it's gotten even worse. So basically, a developer from New York City ended up purchasing that land. They submitted plans to the city to build the Gateway project, which is supposed to be a nice shopping center, all sorts of stuff. It was supposed to improve the city quite a bit, and had the price tag of about $270 million. Well, over that time period from about the mid 2000s when this all kind of started and up until right now, those developers have basically had issues paying the property taxes, making mortgage payments, etc. And it's all kind of come to a head in the last couple of months when they defaulted on their property taxes. So the developer from New York City was using a New York City bank to actually fund all of this stuff, and they've apparently defaulted on that debt, meaning we don't know quite what's going to happen. The city of Mission kind of has their hands tied. They can't quite do anything about this because it still is legally their property. It might have to go through foreclosure, and it's gonna be a big mess. But hopefully, fingers crossed, that over the next decade, this can be sorted out. And that land, which is very, very valuable because it's smack dab in the middle of Mission, Kansas, you've got all of these other developments happening, population's increasing, the home prices in the area are increasing. That would be a huge source of commerce and stimulate even more demand for the area. Hopefully it does. Hopefully something can happen there and they can proceed with some sort of project. Now, the final part of the video, the biggest differences between Mission and Roland Park. So some key distinctions. Number one, I think the cost of living, the home prices are generally going to be a little bit more expensive in Roland Park. In Mission, Kansas, this is number two, you're gonna find some homes that are a little bit older. There's a big drop off between the homes that are like clearly updated, turnkey, don't have to worry about updating anything, and the homes that need significant work. It seems like in Mission, Kansas, you can often stumble upon a home that really needs some love and care. And while that's kind of true of Roland Park in some areas, it's a little bit more descriptive of Mission, Kansas. Number three is that there's a little bit more variety in terms of the types of homes and the floor plans that you'll see in Mission, Kansas. So in Roland Park, there are basically two floor plans. There are some exceptions, but they generally fit into two categories. One is a 3-bedroom, 2-bath, about 1,500 square feet. And then another type of floor plan is about 2 bedrooms, 1 bathroom, and 800 square feet. Once you go into Mission, Kansas, you'll see some of those. You certainly will, but there's quite a large variety. You'll see some homes that are much bigger with 4 or maybe even 5 bedrooms. If you go into the Millhaven neighborhood, you'll see some homes that are in the $600,000, $700,000, $800,000, and you'll have over 2,000 square feet, which there aren't going to be tons of those in Roland Park, for example, yet. Which leads us to the last one. I think of the big wave of redevelopment that swept through Fairway and then went to Prairie Village. Well, I think it's headed for Roland Park first. And Mission, Kansas is not going to be very far behind, but the reason it's going to be Roland Park first is because Roland Park's right next to the Westwood. It's closer to Fairway, and it's just north of Prairie Village. I do think the one exception is while everything's kind of hitting Roland Park, I think all of that development is also going to hit the Millhaven subdivision at probably the same time, just because it's just south of Prairie Village, and that's where we can expect to see some higher end remodels taking place, maybe some larger additions to make some of those smaller homes more functional for today's living standards, and certainly a wave of teardowns and new construction homes popping up throughout the entire area. Now, again, it's our job to specialize in this and know all of the little differences and nuances from street to street, neighborhood to neighborhood, and suburb to suburb. So if you think we'd be a good fit personality wise and you're looking to buy a home in the general area of Johnson County, we would absolutely love to help, whether it's Mission, Kansas, Roland Park, or any of the excellent suburbs. Go ahead and shoot us a message. All of our contact information is down in the description. We can set up a time to talk and then make sure we've got a plan of action to set you up for success and get you the perfect home in the best neighborhood. Now, if you enjoyed the video, make sure to hit that like button and subscribe for future videos about the Kansas City real estate market, Johnson County suburbs, and everything in between. Thank you all for watching. We'll see you on the next one.